We're back, baby. It's the Horns Up Talking Texas podcast. Fisher DeSopoulos, DJ, Nikki, Snacks, Kreider. Gentlemen, good to see you guys.
Good to
also,
see you.
Shout out to Texas Sports Unfiltered. We're here now. Good to see you guys who are watching as well.
I feel like we are due for a little introduction because we have a new audience.
Yeah, go for it, man.
So the three of us are all Texas grads. I was a walk-on to the Texas football team under Coach Charlie Strong. The three of us also host the Charity Stripe podcast. So if you've referred to us saying the Charity Stripe, that is our overarching podcast that we have started over 6 years ago, just all-encompassing sports show. We've had Matthew McConaughey on. We just had Sebastian Maniscalco on. We've had a bunch of sports legends, Marshall Faulk, Bill Walton, Austin Eckler. The list goes on. So if you want your daily dose of sports talk outside of Texas sports, the Charity Stripe is also a place for you. But we're all actors living in LA. I make music myself. So if you ever refer to myself as DJ Nicky Snacks, that is my DJ name. Josh always likes to intro me as DJ Nicky Snacks. Toss is an actor. Josh is an actor. We also all work for the Believe Network, which is the host of Horns Up Talking Texas and the Charity Stripe. Josh is solo dolo now. He was a producer there, and Toss is a producer. So that's a nice little introduction just about us. I know that we're new faces, so I wanted to give you guys the tea on who we are.
Excellent. And there's
Have I missed anything?
You did miss one big piece of the show, I think, that they haven't seen yet.
Yeah. So our fourth member of the show joins in once a week. You know him as Longhorn legend Quan Cosby. So he should be joining us this week.
Yes, he will be.
You know him as number 6.
Yeah, and you'll get to know him.
What's going
on, gents? Block on Lindy Holmes.
What's up, gents? Yeah, that's a great introduction for those now listening to us in Texas Sports Unfiltered. So it's good to see you guys, and now you'll get to know us a bit more as we come to you daily. I think it's at 5:45 CT PM, which is 3:45 on the West Coast, and now that I'm East Coast, at 6:45. Great time to tune in for us to talk about Texas football, basketball, and all things Texas Longhorns. Let's start in a little recruiting news, a little recruiting taste. We hit another home run. I mean, when we recorded our show yesterday, we picked up XF, which he's going to be good, that we're already calling him that. Safety, he was hard to commit to the Florida Gators. Xavier Filsaime, he is now with us as a member of the Texas Longhorns, which is unbelievably exciting. The witching hour.
Signing day's tomorrow.
Yep. Yeah, it's a massive, last second pull from Sark, who we were itching for him for a long time. So it's great to bring him in and continue to dominate. And Sark, was tweeting about it. Gideon was tweeting about it. Like, our coaches are fired up and they're really pumped to get these guys in the building.
And they went on Instagram Live, them as in Xavier Filsaime, and he was joined by Colin Simmons on his IG Live. And they were just talking up Texas. They were throwing up their horns. They were saying, if you want to win, come to Texas. And then Filsaime asked Colin Simmons, he goes, you gonna enroll early next semester? And he's like, yeah. He goes, all right, I'll see you there.
That's amazing.
We have a record. We're set to have a record in Texas program history of early enrollees for this 2024 class. So I'll read them off to you really quickly. Colin Simmons rounding out number 1. Brandon Baker, Ryan Wingo. Brandon Baker is the off the tackle 5-star. Ryan Wingo, 5-star wide receiver. Xavier Filsaime, as we mentioned, 5-star safety. Kobe Black, corner out of Waco. Jarek Gibson, the running back. Always nice to have a nice running back come in the system. We want to keep on building RBU. Wardell Mack, cornerback from Louisiana. Mm-hmm. Daniel Cruz, interior O-lineman from North Richland Hills. DeAndre Robinson, D lineman out of Orlando, Florida. Zena Umezulu, edge out of Allen. Christian Clark, another running back out of Phoenix, Arizona. Parker Livingston, wide receiver out of Lucas, Texas.
He's swag.
Yep, he is. Jordan Johnson Rubel, safety out of Fort Worth.
Nice.
Jordan Washington, tight end out of Houston. Trey Owens, QB out of Cyprus. And then Alex January, D lineman out of Duncanville. And then they said there's one more possibility that could early enroll, and I think it probably comes down to these next couple of days because signing is tomorrow. Ty Anthony Smith, who is right now verbally committed to Texas A&M, he's a linebacker out of Jasper, Texas. He's got a 75% flip percentage on 3. I mean, we all know, A&M's been in shambles all off season, so it's nice to be the nice little cherry on top.
Yeah, booty station. That's what they are. I mean, I want to say two quick pieces. Trey Owens is a guy from Cyprus who, like you said, quarterback who's a 3-star. He's moved up to a 4-star. He had a really excellent season this year. So, and he is, if you follow him on Twitter, one of the guys that beats the Texas Longhorn drum loudest. So
So vocal.
he's vocal on social media. Alex January, who we mentioned last show, was Colin Simmons' running mate on the defensive line. Not Simmons. Alex January won the 6A Defensive Player of the Year. So, and somebody commented on our show the other day that Byron Murphy's a 3-star, Devondre Sweat was a 3-star. And, some sites have January as a 4-star, some have him as a 3-star. And at the end of the day, it's ultimately how you develop. And he's a big boy. Guys like him, guys like, Cruz, like our interior linemen, like those guys are going to be massive pieces to continue the foundation that this team built. It's not only about the championship for me, for these guys are making it to the playoff, which I saw someone tweet out yesterday. Look at the Texas program. The Texas programs have done. They went to the Elite Eight. They're doing well. They're in the top 12 and top 25 in hoops. Women's hoops is obviously good again. They won a back-to-back championship in volleyball. We've made the playoffs, won the Big 12 on our last opportunity to do that and have a shot to go to the national championship for the first time in over a decade. But what the foundation of this team built, it's moved away from a couple of guys who are really good and could be pros, a couple of skill players who are flashing and put up big numbers, to real trench work and real serious interior offensive and defensive line work. And I think guys like, January and guys like Cruz, who may not be the highest touted guys, but will come in there and put in the work and have had success in high school and have, a great physical stature. I think those guys are going to be the guys that help carry the torch, I'm hoping, to continue on what this program has built this season.
Well, your point to them all being 3-stars when they entered, right? Byron Murphy, Devondre Sweat. Honestly, like those type of guys that commit to our program, knowing that there are other 5-stars and 4-stars in their class and guys starting ahead of them, they play with a chip on their shoulder. They could have easily gone to a smaller Division I college. They could have gone to Division I AA. They could have, gone to, Tulsa, Toledo, even like a Kansas State, and been, probably the stars there. And they end up working their way and become a star at Texas. I think they play with a little bit of extra intensity and ferocity. So I like when these guys come in here and have to work for their jobs, because at the end of the day, we say it all the time, best player plays. And it's a mindset sometimes more than the physical aspect of things.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. T, you're muted.
We might have to pull the clip for when we had Matthew McConaughey on our show, and he was talking about, the star doesn't matter. It's about having that 5-star mentality. Because it was a great quote, and obviously it's McConaughey, and talk about beating the Texas drum. There's no one that beats it louder than that guy does. So we'll have to throw that clip in so that whenever we bring in a non-5-star recruit going forward, we can just play that real quick for the fans.
6 stars. I think he said 6-star, right? Is what he said.
That's why we got to pull the clip.
The only thing he says he beats louder than the Texas drum is his chest. That man, he's obviously, such a big proponent. And you know what? Like, you're always proud to be a Texas Longhorn. It's a great school. It's a great university. It's a great city. And I always tell people the most beautiful part about going to college there is you're going to college in a college city. You get the best of both worlds. It is like a college town feel. You get to have the college aspect, but you're also like in full on Austin, Texas, which is a rapidly growing city. And it's a rapidly growing entertainment space, which I think a lot of young individuals in college are gravitating more and more towards, even than when we were there. And they have great programs for that at the university. So it's now, despite being such a great school, all the success we're having in sports, and now mainly football, which is our biggest money driver, no matter how you slice it, it's an even better time to beat that drum if you're a Texas Longhorn fan. So I think it's very exciting. We got, again, like I mentioned, Emery Winston. I believe I mentioned the tight end commit yesterday. It's another big one for Sark. Moore is a guy.
He's a 2025.
Yeah.
So he's the second guy committed in our 2025 class, which is awesome. I mean, to get him early.
Yeah.
It was a great day yesterday. But your point to Austin, it's about time that we're like utilizing and capitalizing on the great city that it is. You know what I mean? Now that there's a professional soccer team, for a long time we were the biggest city in the entire United States without a professional sports team. Now, we're still the biggest city in the United States without a big 3 sports team, baseball, basketball, football, and not even hockey. But I think it's about time that we start utilizing kind of what Austin has to offer with all of the businesses that are popping up, tech companies, headquarters, for Tesla. Formula One is there every year now. We always talk about ACL and how important that is sometimes for recruiting. You know, I mean, when I was down at ACL a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago now, saw Max Absmus and Brock Cunningham. I mean, like these athletes on their weeks off, like they want to enjoy the city. South by Southwest, like a lot of these kids, you know, they want to continue to build their personal value and their social presence. And being in a city like Austin gives you a lot of opportunity to do things and be exposed to a lot of different avenues outside of sports.
Yeah, a guy like Asmus, we saw him running around with Brock Cunningham, and they were boys, and that's Cunningham's job, is to welcome him to the team, right?
Yeah.
And and it's good to see XF and Simmons. Like, we've seen that, I feel, with other recruits, you know, in past years. We kind of saw it last year and the year before that with like the recruits getting hyped up about coming to UT. But again, it's such a big brand. You have like the symbol, when the symbol's rocking, and you get to just whip this out and you get to cook this like wherever. It really means something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great that we're taking advantage of it. And it's great that, you know, our ambassadors are working well. I mean, we have some of the top, you were telling us before the show started, Nick, some of the top NIL athletes in the world.
Yeah. So this is a pretty interesting graphic that I'm going to pull up right now on the On3 NIL rankings list. So it's basically the value of NIL athletes. And I don't really know how they I think they like pool like social following and stuff, and they put like a numerical value on it. So number one is Bronny James. I don't think anyone has any questions why that is. LeBron James' son. He plays basketball at USC. Number two, Shedeur Sanders, quarterback for Colorado. Number three, Livy Dunn. She's an LSU gymnast. She's dating Paul Skeens, who was drafted by the Pirates. Yeah, by the Pirates. And they look at social following. Like, she's got 12 million followers. Number four is Arch Manning. And, you know, doesn't have nearly the size of the following, but at the end of the day, he's a Manning. You know, he's got his uncles that run the Manning cast. His grandfather's an NFL legend. His father's, you know, in Caesar's Palace commercials all the time. We got 5, Caleb Williams. Number 6, Jaden Daniels. Number 7,
if you don't mind just holding for 2 seconds there, which is, I mean, I know the Manning name is like such a valuable last name, but it's still so like, I don't know if he might have that if he goes to Ohio State, but I definitely think our branding and our value as a university helps amplify that. I mean,
no doubt.
Arch Manning is ahead of Caleb Williams,
who won the Heisman last year.
Won the Heisman last year. He's on TV in commercials. Jaden Daniels just won the Heisman. Travis Hunter has his own podcast, has his own show that people tune into, and he's the best two-way player maybe we've ever seen in college football.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Not to mention, just to throw in there, like Ohio State is the Midwest. You know, it's not the Southeast. It's not the South. His family grew up in the South. He grew up in New Orleans. Like, his grandfather played for the Saints, right? Peyton went to Tennessee. Eli went to Ole Miss. Like, they have their roots in the Southeast. That's where people know them best. So I think just in regards to Arch, and obviously, like, these are conversations that were had 2 years ago during his entire recruitment process, but you can't undervalue how indispensable it was and how indispensable it will be of where our school exists. And we're talking about the city of Austin, but, you know, we're kind of in ways wanting to become the capital of the SEC, as far as, you know, right now you want to take it away from Athens, you want to take it away from Tuscaloosa, right? But Austin, Texas offers a lot of different things that those two cities do not have. And so obviously, you know, those universities we're talking about the recruiting trail, they're still dominating there, right? But interestingly, before we get through the rest of this list, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, LSU, none of them have hit the transfer portal like a team like Ole Miss, right? Who has 15 new guys coming into their locker room. And you could poo-poo us, I guess, for that, but you could also say, no, we're building it in the right way by bringing in X amount of recruits that we then want to develop, and we'll get those cherries on top to be those transfer guys who are coming in as veterans, as upperclassmen, juniors, and seniors who can really be contributors in whatever the sport is.
You don't need 90 million transfers. Like Ole Miss brought in Spencer Sanders from Oklahoma State last year. You didn't see the field really. Like, and like they're bringing a lot of great guys, but the guys we brought in, like Matthew Golden was really specific. Like, he's a good wide receiver and he's a good return specialist. We needed that to replace Xavier Worthy. We're going to need some help with the safety position because we like to rotate guys and we like having depth there. Mokuba is there, and he in 344 coverage snaps, 0 touchdowns. So we're picking in the right guys, and Trey Moore is a really good piece.
Ole Miss with their transfers, I mean, you got to believe that, like, maybe, you know, a third of those guys are not going to be playing much next year. I mean, there's a lot of guys that came over there, and so they're just trying to stack depth as much as possible. But I mean, I respect what Lane Kiffin's doing. He always dominates the transfer portal. He's done it every single year. But yeah, as we continue to go through this list, Travis Hunter, Bo Nix, Angel Reese, so basketball player out of LSU. I mean, she's probably the most famous women's college hoops player right now. And then Quinn Ewers at number 10.
Wow.
So, I mean, that just shows you right there. We have 2 players. I think we're the, besides Livy Dunn and Angel Reese, we're the, and I guess Colorado and with Travis Hunter and Shador, we've got 2 quarterbacks in the top 10 right here in NIL value. So I think that says something about our system and just kind of what our university has been able to bring to the table in terms of NIL. And then down this list a little bit, number 35, this is kind of a wild one, but Sam Hurley, he's a track athlete at the University of Texas. He's the number 35th overall NIL athlete in the NCAA. As you can see, he's got a huge social following on Instagram, on TikTok. So the power of social is huge and key. And I think University of Texas is allowing players to really, grow their brands and help them.
Yeah, you have to, again, you have to jump and roll with the tide or you get hit by it. So I think, UT and Texas and all the coaching staffs and all the things in place, we've managed the wild west, what everyone thought it was of NIL pretty damn well. But yeah, again, like really great day out of Sark and Co. Really, as per usual. And, I think ultimately it's very cool what Ole Miss is doing. And we said in our show the other day, like it'd be great to have Ole Miss back in the saddle and be competitive and get the Grove ignited. And they have great uniforms, great swag. Lane Kiffin's cool, but they still have to deliver on the field. Like A&M brought that recruiting class in and it was amazing, but where are they now? Nowhere, because they didn't deliver on the field. Our recruiting class, to me, was exciting last year, and it's even more exciting this year, and it's getting more and more exciting because we're starting to deliver on the field. We're following through. Like, not only are we getting great recruits, but we're actually winning football games and making do with what we're getting versus like, oh, look at this great class we had. Well, you're not in the playoffs. What's the show for it? Like if Ole Miss misses the playoffs, great transfer class, cool. But like, that's all you got. You don't got really anything. You don't have the hardware. You don't have what you need for it.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is the college football playoff is extending to 12 teams, right? So who's to say that this year, a team that lost to Georgia and Alabama, if they do the same thing next year while bringing in more talent, why wouldn't they be in the college football playoff, right? So that's part of the reason.
In this year.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, and it's important for us to look forward and know that next season we don't have to be perfect, but we need to be next to perfect if we want to continuously get back to the college football playoff.
Yeah, it's a good point. I don't think it's a good. I think that you're making is like, look, yes, it's 12 teams, and yes, they would have made it this year, but it's not a gimme. Like where there's so much conference realignment, like they're not going to put 9 teams from the SEC in the college football playoff. It's just not going to happen like that.
No, but they might put 4 or 5.
4 or 5, sure, but like if you're putting 4 or 5 teams from the SEC in the college football playoff, you're going to have a competition between Texas, OU, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Mizzou now, right?
I mean, as it stands right now, and like how the final ranking shaped out in like the current SEC, without Texas and OU, there's 4 teams. It's Bama, Georgia, Mizzou, Ole Miss, and then if you add Texas and Oklahoma, that makes it 6.
Yeah, I just think it's gonna be a little tougher.
And one of those teams probably gets bumped out, right? Whether it's Ole Miss or it's Oklahoma,
right?
One of those teams might not make it.
You also imagine that some of these teams suffer losses from each other. Yeah,
exactly. Like you're adding an extra SEC game into the mix, so the schedule gets a bit tougher. Yeah, and look, they're gonna take a team from the Big 12. They're gonna take a team from the ACC, ACC, and they're gonna take a team. Like Notre Dame can make it, like whether we like it or not. They've recruited pretty well on the transfer portal. They brought in Riley Leonard, the guy that tossed Lucky with the top transfer quarterback. They brought him from Notre Dame. But yeah, other transfer news, Dante Moore, who was a top 5-star from UCLA, pretty interesting.
Yeah.
He's going to Oregon. I guess he's going to back up Dylan Gabriel, learn some more of the ropes over there in Oregon, and then hopefully take the reins from him once he moves on.
Yeah, it's interesting because like they're 2 of the top quarterbacks in this transfer portal. Obviously, Dylan Gabriel out of OU has 1 year left of eligibility, so I imagine he just tries to pull the Bo Nix, build the value up, and go to the draft. Hopefully be a first-round draft pick, and then Moore can back him up and then build his value the same way.
Yeah,
I think it's smart at the end of the day, right? Like keep yourself healthy for next year in college, let your body mature a little bit, And then, as we've seen time and time again, Oregon's just able to flourish with their quarterbacks, just the way their system moves.
Yeah, I saw a
Yeah.
funny post. It was like Chip Kelly thought he left for greener pastures, but they recovered faster than Chip Kelly did. Like Chip Kelly left them for naught, but like Oregon pieced things together faster than they did, which is definitely pretty interesting. And Dylan Raiola,
Yeah, I mean, that's the power of, before you get into some Cornhusker talk, that's the power of Eugene. That's the power of Phil Knight and
yeah,
Nike. You know, there's a reason why. Honestly, the biggest head scratcher of those top 10 to me is probably Bo Nix. I know Bo Nix was in the Heisman race, but going into this season, when you think about marketing, you think about social media, like how often was Bo Nix talked about in comparison to guys like Caleb Williams, athletes like Livy Dunn, guys like Arch Manning? Like it wasn't the same conversation. I know he kind of played himself into that. Same with Jaden Daniels. Although, you know, LSU is a college that gets a lot of NIL money. So I wouldn't necessarily be surprised that Jaden Daniels is in that top 6 or wherever he was. But Bo Nix was definitely like the most asterisk looking one in my mind in that top 10.
Yeah, I like that point. London Humphreys is officially with Georgia. To go back to the finals, what's going on? He was from Vanderbilt. He was a top wide receiver. He'll probably replace Ladd McConkey. LT Overton, one of the guys from that famed A&M recruiting class, defensive tackle. He's going to Bama. McCord, we didn't mention this the other day. He's going to Syracuse, and someone was like, is he going to get, you know, Marvin Harrison Jr. to play for his father's alma mater? That's doubtful. He's going to the draft, but I know, just a fun.
It's the DeVito momentum. It's the DeVito momentum.
Yeah. Caden Green, OU to Mizzou. That's a big offensive line move. So that was definitely really interesting to see. USC's losing a couple guys. They're losing Damani Jackson, Tackett Curtis, like the underclassmen who are big recruits.
Malachi Nelson.
They lost Malachi Nelson, who was with Lincoln at OU. He wasn't even the backup quarterback. He was the third string. And I think he was, I imagine, a little discouraged when he saw that, like, the rumor to get Will Howard, Cam Ward, like they're going to the transfer portal. So he's putting his name back in the transfer portal, which is super interesting. And I think that pretty much is, I don't think I'm really missing anybody else.
You mentioned the Vandy receiver, but LSU got AJ Swan, who was the Vandy QB, which is interesting because Garrett Nussmeier is presumably supposed to be their starter. So more and more teams, a similar thing to Oregon, are going after not only their starting QB in the portal, but also their starting QB for the years to come, which is a risky play for the individual kids themselves.
You need 1 year, man, though. You only need, like Mac Jones, you only needed 1 year. I mean, I thought, you only need 1 year to get done.
It's just, there's no guarantee a lot of times that you're going to be the starter 2 years from now, right? Because competition will change, recruits will be brought in, the portal will look different that next off season. It's just a risky play, I would say, for a guy who doesn't know whether or not he's walking into a starting job.
Yeah, very. But JT Daniels,
the Dylan Raiola thing is pretty interesting.
Yeah, weird, crazy. Yeah,
going to Nebraska. I mean, he was committed to Georgia for a while. And then you would think that, you know, the greener pastures for him, or, you know, a team maybe like Ohio State, because they're losing McCord, right? And, you know, we look at all these SEC teams and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, Nebraska is an interesting one, and hopefully it works out. I mean, it'd be cool to see Nebraska get back on the map. And he was the top player in the entire recruiting class this year for 2024. But there's still a couple of names out there. You know, we mentioned Will Howard, Cam Ward, our guy Malik Murphy. Duke is right now the favorite to land him, with Oregon State coming in second. DJ Uiagalelei, rumored to maybe go to Florida State or Louisville, up in the air. So yeah, we'll see how this all shakes out. The longer this like waits, though, you know, the longer that like I haven't seen Malik Murphy commit to a school, the more I'm like, dude, why didn't you just stay for an extra 2 weeks to see if we can, you know, get a ring on your finger and celebrate with us?
Well, I think he'll still get a ring.
No, he'll get a ring, but I mean, like, he won't be on the sideline. He may like,
gone.
What happens if Quinn goes down? You know, he might not get a snap. Like he might never get a chance to ever play in a college football playoff.
At Duke and Louisville, probably not. If that's where he's thinking of going. Yeah, the Dylan Raiola thing is super interesting. I guess like Carson Beck announced he was coming back today, so that's probably why he's jumping ship. from
He
Georgia.
feasibly could be their starter day one for the Cornhuskers. So
probably should be. I mean, look, they were 5-7, but they lost a lot of close games. And we've said this time and time again, we know how Matt Rule can return a program. Like he took Baylor from the dead. So I think he can do the same at Nebraska. Real quick, guys, I do want to cover a little bit of the Sugar Bowl. I want to ask you, I pose a question. Which quarterback means more to their team? Michael Penix Jr. or Quinn Ewers?
I think this is really obvious. I think it's Penix. I don't necessarily know that the Huskies are where they are without him. And to be honest, like I love Quinn so much, but I think that we might have still been able to get to this place that we are if we had another quarterback. I mean, if Malik kept on playing, who knows? Maybe he matured a little bit, stopped making as many mistakes. I mean, he was 2-0. I mean, that's pretty obvious right there. It's on the paper. But Penix, what he's been able to do for this program and getting to New York for the Heisman award ceremony, I mean, that's huge. And he really transforms this offense. I mean, he balled out last year against us in the Alamo Bowl, and we had quite a level up for both programs to get to the Sugar Bowl and College Bowl playoff.
Yeah, absolutely. T.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I agree with everything that Nick says, but I'm actually going to say Quinn because I think if he's playing his best football, he not only makes our team the best version of what it can be, he becomes the connector to all of our different incredibly talented skill position players, but he gives us an extra element of being not just a good team, but being an elite team and being a national champion. And I think if you pull Penix, like Penix to me, I'm not wholeheartedly in belief that they are a national championship team with him at the helm. He has to play really, really good football. And he had to play really, really good football this entire season to keep them in games, to win them games. But I think we still haven't seen the best of Quinn. And we've seen our football team play really, really good, dominant football the last 2 weeks of the season. And if he is playing at the highest caliber of what we know he can do, then I think we're the best team in the country. And so I think if you pull that off of our roster, certainly now it even more becomes glaring because we don't have Malik, right? We have Arch, who is a guy that has only played less than 20 snaps. Like we can't not have a great performance from Quinn, not only in the semifinal, but going forward if we win this game.
Well, his value definitely goes up a lot more now that Malik is off the roster, and the backup will be Quinn. I mean, or Arch. I mean, no disrespect to Arch, but he is a freshman. He's played limited snaps. My question to you though, with that is the gap further from being a national champion to where we are now with Quinn at the helm or him not at the helm than it is for Michael Penix not being at the helm and them not even being in the playoff? Because I feel like they're not even sniffing the playoff if he's not on their roster.
So is it the guy, like, that's what I was going to ask, is like, what's more important, really, the guy that they wouldn't have gotten there without, or the guy that makes their team the best team in the nation, like you said? Because that was a good point.
It's a fair criticism, but I also disagree with the earlier point that if we had Malik starting, that we would be in the same spot. He won the 2 games. He won them ugly. I know that he's not as good of a quarterback as Quinn. He shouldn't be, hasn't played as much football. If we were in this position with Malik, which I think like the committee might have been a little bit more favorable to the University of Texas in comparison to what they did with Florida State, I would not believe that we were winning this game. We wouldn't be favored in this game, certainly. And I wouldn't have the confidence that if we did win this game somehow, because our defense played a phenomenal game, that we would be able to win the national championship. I just don't think he showed me enough in the small amount of play that he's that difference maker. And I also think that I feel like, look, Quinn was you look at his high school recruiting rank, like there's a reason why he was recruited as highly as he was. There's a reason why his composite score was as high as it was. Like, this guy can be a real difference maker, the best quarterback in college football if things are going right for him. And I also think they run the football really, really well. I'm talking about Washington now. They run the football really, really well. I think they have an incredible core of wide receivers. And I know our defense is good, but I know that if Quinn is great, that we are nearly unstoppable. And it's just, man, more than anything, it's just like, that's been a long time since I've had that confidence in our entire roster, not to mention our quarterback.
I think that I am still I'm with Nick, but I'm not as emphatic as I was, because at the beginning of this question, when Nick was like, Yeah, no question. I kind of was like that. I think he put up a really good sway toss. I just really don't think the Washington Huskies are here without him. I don't
Well,
think.
a part of this is like we just kind of have to watch it play out.
Oh,
Right?
we're gonna have to watch it play out.
If we
This is
win
all
by 20 points,
speculation.
But we will. We'll watch it play out.
If we win by 20 points, I feel like my intuition is right about this. Right?
Sure.
And that it wouldn't have mattered whether it was him or someone else. But
yeah, like I it's interesting is like because like Penix Jr. is like you were anticipating like they need him just to keep him in the game, just to keep it like interesting. Like Quinn could be really good. He doesn't have to be what he was in the Big 12 championship for us to win this game. It more so relies on our defense having to be what it was the entire season and get some serious stops, completely negate the run game from the Washington Huskies and force Penix Jr. to beat us. So the result will really answer this question: who was more important to their team. I don't think who's a better quarterback is. I think that's a very tricky situation because obviously Penix it's a loaded question because Penix. Look, objectively, he had the better season. He went to New York. He was second in the Heisman in the closest race. He was the better. He's older. He was the better college quarterback this season. By and large, like I keep bringing up the point to people, not even just on our show with you guys, and I think you guys are with me. Quinn has 2 really good games. We come out on top in both these games. He could jump. He will jump him. He's a better prospect. The issue with Quinn Ewers and the issue he's had really, I felt. Not really last year, but it did bleed from last year, was injuries. He missed significant time last year. He missed significant time again this year, which is another reason why I don't think like if he has 2 really good showings, even if we lose the national championship, if he balls out, we win the Sugar Bowl, he balls out again, and that game's tight, like similar to USC, Texas.
Yeah, take the money and go.
You have to, because what are you going to run the risk of getting hurt again? You've gotten hurt 2 years in a row. You get hurt 3rd year in a row in college.
It's easier to get hurt in the NFL than it is in college, right? And it's often slow when you're making, $20 million on your rookie deal.
Yeah, and I don't think it's this gimme of like a year in the quarter. Everyone's like, "Oh, he'll be the first quarterback taken next year." I don't think it's necessarily. It's not a gimme at all because Carson Beck was lights out in the second half. I mean, Toss, you were on that early. He was lights out in the second half. Look where Jaden Daniels went from a guy that's probably going to be drafted in the 3rd round, 4th round. He's going to be a top 10 pick because he won the Heisman Trophy. You don't think someone's taking Shedeur Sanders early? How could you not? Look at that value. His value is still leaps and bounds bigger than Quinn's. And that's just NIL. Like you get a good, crazy family, a loud family, a great football family with that. A good comes with that. Good marketing comes with that, especially if you're the Atlanta Falcons and they don't take a quarterback this year. We know where they're going next year. So I think it's not such a gimme. It's not so black and white. But I would say that Penix has been more important to getting his team here. He's been the more pivotal piece, but we'll see who's more important ultimately come New Year's Day.
What just real quick before we hop off here, there was a couple of rumors on X, on Twitter, whatever your fancy is on what you want to call that particular app, that there might be more guys staying than we think.
I saw
with the
that
Texas Longhorns. Did you see that? And I don't know whether or not to believe it. And particularly, I think they were referencing offensive skill position players that would be staying, without naming any names. I think they were alluding to Jatavian, which is interesting. I don't believe that's going to happen, but we certainly wouldn't say no to it. So,
I mean, in my opinion, I like. He's going to be a late 1st round, early 2nd round pick. Like that's we've seen his value there. And he's another guy who had injury this year. And, once you get shaken up once, like you don't want it to happen again. And you want to go out and collect the bag in the NFL. I mean, NIL aside, you're never going to make more money than you would in the NFL.
I think people are talking maybe about 80, not to cut you, Nick, but people are talking about 82. See, I think you could lump him in here, Nick.
That's also another head scratcher because it's like you've accomplished literally almost everything that you need to accomplish. You've won 2 natties on your way to a 3rd for 2 universities. You've worked your way into mock drafts that have put you in the 1st round of the NFL draft. Like I really don't know how much more you can achieve in college football. If you're trying to be like a top 15 wide receiver taken in the draft, but I don't really know much more he can do to get there. Like he's not Marvin Harrison Jr. like that. Like he's talented, but I think those are the guys that are like clear cut, like going top 5. And I don't know the 80s clear cut, leaps and bounds going to be the top 5, go get him freak that people want to trade up for. But in my opinion, like I think you just kind of let this play out and see what happens at the end of the season. But if I had my money on it, like the only guy that I can really see staying is Jonathan Brooks. And obviously, like there's no guarantee that he even stays. Like if he might have said, okay, I tore my ACL, but I'll bounce back and I'll let a team take me in the 3rd round and I'll work for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If I had my pick, it's a good point to bring up. If I had my pick of guys to stay, of like, underclassmen who could, discluding Quinn, who, as of now is staying, I would probably say Byron Murphy, honestly. Keep that interior like intact. We're
cool.
going to lose Sweat. I would no shake on 80 Mitch, who was my MVP of the year. No shake on Jatavian Sanders. I think we're going to get Brooks back because of the injury. But having Byron Murphy back with all these edge rushers and all these edge pieces, how great he was this year, I actually think he could continue to take his value up.
And he's probably right now projected as a 3rd round draft pick.
3rd or 4th round pick.
Yeah.
But
so you have so you become the guy at Texas. You have another year like you did this year where you get ranked, in the tops of PFF's rankings. You work your way to 1st or early 2nd.
He's the number one.
That's a difference of millions of dollars.
He's the number 1 in passing and interior alignment. He was number 2 overall behind Sweat, but he was number 1 in the passing game in the interior alignment.
I think his knock, and this is nothing that he can work on, is size. I don't think he's the biggest, at his position. I think he's a little undersized for what he is. I mean, you put him next to Sweat, and like he kind of, looks like I would next to Sweat.
Yeah, but like you know what? But we've met Aaron Donald up close and personal, and that guy was just moves. So like you could always continue to develop your skills and develop your game. So if I could pick one guy to come back, I think that would be an exciting pick for me, for him. And for him, like look, no shake on the Big 12, but like we know how people value the offensive lines, the SEC, particularly the interior offensive line. Like I think that him coming back and playing some of the top interior guys in the SEC, I think that can only even increase his value.
Yeah.
But
regardless, I want what's best for these guys. At the end of the day, it's cool to put a bunch of boys in the class and let them, get drafted, and that looks good on us, and that continues to have recruits want to come in here. And like I said at the beginning of the show, if you missed it, we've got a record-setting early enrollees for 2024. It's going to be awesome. That just means more time, getting acclimated to the system. Spring football is pivotal. It's huge. I mean, if you don't know what spring football is like, it's a really good place for you to bond with your teammates, for you to really kind of figure out what you need to work on. It's for the coaching staff to really get a true identity, for who's going to be their starters next year. You go through a lot of trials and tribulations. You fight with your teammates. You work with your teammates. You love your teammates. And at the end of the day, like I think spring football is huge, and to have all those guys coming in here to play with this team, it's going to set up for big success next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Really well said. All right, gents. It was a pleasure and an honor, as always. I'll see you guys soon. Tomorrow, that being fans out there listening, hook 'em horns. We'll see you guys next time. Fisher Sopples, DJ, Nikki Snacks Rider. Quan will be back, like Nick said at the top of the show this week, so get excited with our special guest, Hook 'em horns. See you guys next time.